Good morning, Year 6, and welcome to the next part of Oliver Twist. I'll read you chapter 12, which is In Which Nancy is True to Her Word. "How are you feeling, Bill?" asked Nancy tenderly. It was the first time Sykes had woken for days. He had caught a cold and sunk into weeks of illness. He was thin and pale. "Weak as water. Blast her eyes," he croaked. "Hand me out this bed. Get me a drink." After all her nights of watching and nursing Bill, Nancy was barely any stronger herself. "There's nothing in the house. I went to Fagin for money, but till today he's been out of town." "On business," the Artful Dodger says. "Well, get over there now and tell him I need £10. What's he think he's doing, going off and leaving me at death's door? He owes me. He'd been nothing without me. Well, what are you waiting for? The back of my hand?" "Bill, be nice," implored Nancy. "Haven't I looked after you all this while? Oh, and see if you can't find out what the old villain's been up to. Business, my eye," he spat. At Fagin's kitchen, Nancy teased and taunted, shouted and pleaded, until Fagin advanced Bill £5 gold. She sat before the fire then, and seemed to doze, even when the man Monks arrived, and the other boys were turned out of the room. "You've got news," said Monks. "News of Oliver?" He broke off, jerking his hand in Nancy's direction. "Who's that?" "Don't mind her. Nancy's sound enough," said Fagin. "But we can discuss business up in my study, if you prefer, my dear." The two climbed to a filthy box room on the floor above and sat, heads close, swapping secrets. "They've come to London, you say," said Monks. "That's right, my dear. Staying at the Feathers Hotel. So you can snatch the boy back. You've done it before. Devil roast him." "All in good time, my dear." Fagin's voice dropped like oil. "You should be thinking of that proof you spoke of. Where does the boy stand without proof of his identity? I've told you everything he said to me about his workhouse days, about the beadle who took charge of him. Shouldn't you have words with this beadle, Bumble, to lay hands on those trinkets you spoke of? If they still exist. Trust me, your little brother will keep till you come again." Their footsteps on the stairs seemed to have roused Nancy from her doze, for they found her halfway out of her chair, pulling on her bonnet. She said good night to the Fagin, wasting no more than a sideways glance on Monks. "I must get back to Bill, or he'll give me what for," she said. In the firelight, her eyes seemed unnaturally bright. Bill Sykes noticed it too. "You got the fever now?" he said, as she moved restlessly around the room, preparing supper. "You're no good to me sick, you know." Nancy gave a sharp, high laugh. "Fever? Not me. Eat, Bill. I brought food. And gin. You should eat, now you're on the mend." He did eat, too, and greedily guzzled down the gin she had poured. Suddenly he sat down on the bed, too sleepy even to curse, and slumped sideways on the pillow. Instantly Nancy was in her coat and bonnet and running down the stairs. Along the busy street she ran, darting in front of horse cabs and scattering knots of pedestrians who gaped after her. There was so little time. Soon the sleeping draught she had put in Bill's gin would wear off. She had to run all the way, and even then she did not reach the Featherless Hotel until after 9. "I must see Miss Rose Maylie," she told the hall porter. "She won't see your kind," said the porter, looking Nancy up and down. "I should think not," the maids agreed. "She's a respectable lady." "Don't matter what you think of me," gasped Nancy. "Tell her I'm here, and that life depends on it." Grudgingly, sneeringly, they delivered the message, certain that Miss Maylie would send the scruffy girl away. But Rose Maylie had far more charity than they had. Even knowing nothing of Nancy, she offered at once to help her if she's able to get out her purse to do so. "It's not money I'm after," said Nancy. "I've got news about Oliver." "You know Oliver?" exclaimed Miss Maylie, dropping her purse. "I'm Nancy. I'm the one what snatched him from the old gentleman in Pentonville. If Rose was shot, she hid it well. You had better sit down. Do you know a man called Monks? No? Well, he knows you, and he knows young Oliver and all. Just tonight I heard he was Oliver's brother." Nancy recounted everything she had overheard as she crouched on the stairs of Fagin's kitchen. She told how the man called Monks seemed to want Oliver ruined, not murdered, no, but gold and sunk deep in a life of crime. How Fagin might have managed it too, but for the robbery. "My life's a washout, and there's nothing saving me. But if Oliver's got a chance, some prospects in life, I won't stand by and see him get robbed. And you must keep him safe. Don't let Fagin get his claws in him again." Rose Maylie assured Nancy that she would be perfectly safe. Why, once the gang was in prison, Nancy could make a fresh start, away from her sordid life, her evil crimes. "No," said Nancy, "I won't desert my sweetheart. He may not be much, but he's all a girl like me gets. No, I won't turn him in, or testify against Fagin, which would be the same thing. I only come here tonight for Oliver's sake. If Monk gets hold of this proof, whatever it is, I'll let you know. How? Somehow. Tell you what, a week today I'll walk on London Bridge between 11 and midnight. You may come and find me there. Though God help me if Bill ever gets wind of it." The visit left Rose Maylie shaken. She was heartily glad when the news came to the hotel next morning. Mr. Brownlow had been found. His new address had been tracked down. Now, at last, she would have an ally against London's shadowy, violent underworld. The cab stopped outside a house in the Strand, and Rose Maylie went inside alone. The maid showed her to a parlour where two elderly gentlemen rose to greet her, polite but unsure why a beautiful young stranger should call on them unannounced. At the mention of Oliver's name, Mr. Brownlow sat down and stood up again, and his friend Mr. Grimwig swore he would eat his head if the boy was not bad through and through. Briefly, Rose told her story, and while she did so, saw Mr. Brownlow glance time and time again at the portrait on the wall. "I will, of course, do everything I can to help you, dear lady," he said when the story was ended. "But first, may I write to Oliver, perhaps, and send him my warmest regards?" "Why not give them in person?" said Rose. "Oliver's waiting downstairs." At that, Mr. Brownlow leapt out of his chair and fairly bounded down the stairs. "Mrs. Bedwin, great news! Come quickly!" And out of the house. Wrenching open the cab door, he clambered inside. Meanwhile, in the upstairs parlour, Mr. Grimwig tipped his chair on one leg and spun around, jumping up and planting a kiss on Miss Maylie's forehead, which was an outrageous thing to do. That's the end of chapter 12. We'll continue our next part, chapter 13, which is in which Monks lays hands on something not belonging to him. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.